What up, America? What up, world? Welcome to a Better Black America podcast, the #1 urban podcast, stateside and worldwide. Now, today is Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Now, we're turning the heat up on the Biden administration. His administration is falling apart from the hinges in plain sight. Now, Biden is not well mentally, physically, and he is suspect spiritually. Now, Vice President Harris' Deputy Chief of Staff, Michael Fuchs, which is a German name, becomes the 11th aide to leave in the mass exodus. And we had no clue. Why did we not have a clue? Because they're keeping these things undercover. They don't want us to know the truth. We got a lot of global issues going on. A lot of regime change in the nation building, and a lot of deceit. And the Biden administration, under war and inflation and, times where people are uneasy, somehow feel that they got to go back and get a few moral victories. And I'm not sure if they're on the same sheet of music politically. And I'm talking about the Biden administration along with the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congress, because Congress is forced to try to find ways to actually get some more victories. And in this case, two bills passed last week. One was the Crown Act, which became law, which was a hairdo act, and H.R. 55, House of Representatives 55. And this is what we're talking about today. And we're going to pretty much talk about it until we can see some actual change, because we can't turn the page. Because I was wondering why is there a mass exodus in the Biden administration along with Kamala Harris? Is because of the lack of understanding of the purpose and principles. Because we selected the Biden administration to become the president and its executive branch. But for some strange reason, things are not working out the way that we planned. So let me just go ahead and get into it now. H.R. 55, Emmett Till Antilynching Bill, became law March 29, 2022. And no one, absolutely no one, is talking about it. No one really even cares. Because in 2022, a bill that says lynching is illegal and put the name of a 14-year-old boy at the time, was brutally beaten, open casket. His mom wanted the world to see what they had did to her 14-year-old child. And he was brutally beaten because he was black. No rope involved, but it's just the fact that killing someone just because of the color of their skin could be considered lynching. But we're going to get into the bill because there's always some okie doke stuff. And I don't want to get too deep right now. I just want to show you how insignificant this bill is because of the timing. Why now? No one is getting murdered or killed and lynched without prosecution. Now, it would have made perfectly good sense if they named it the Ahmaud Arbery bill, because of Ahmaud Arbery was actually lynched in plain sight. And the three gentlemen involved, or the three murderers, or the three white lynchers involved, all were prosecuted and will be spending the rest of their lives in prison. So why would a bill right now make sense? Because they want to have some type of victory. Now, when you're confused, and I'm gonna give you some game right now. When you're confused, you don't know what to do. The best advice, or the best advice I could give you is stand still. And I can tell you from experience, if you stand still and not make a decision and allow a decision to be made, you will be able to make the adjustment, because that's what God will command us to do. Just stand still. I'm not sure. I don't know which way to go. So I'm gonna just stand still, meditate, reflect. Time is undefeated. So just a matter of time, a decision will be made and I will be ready for whatever decision presents itself. But when you make a decision to do something just because, what are you thinking when it comes to the aftermath? Are you even considered or concerned about an aftermath? Were you briefed? Did your cabinet members explain to you that there may be some pushback, or you just wanted to say you put a bill into law by signing into law. And one of them is a hairdo act. And the other is the Emmett Till Antilynching Act, which became law in 2022 on March 29th, 2022. And none of us knew nothing about it. They brought Emmett Till's family members and Ida B. Wells' family members and gave them pens. So it looks like they're doing a blast from the past. But one thing that this did is it literally destroyed the oppositions of the ones of critical race theory. It destroyed anyone that wanted to say that it's about class. It destroyed any conversation that wanted to get away from race, because President Joe Biden named the bill anti-lynching, which we know lynching became synonymous from the name Willie Lynch, who came to America in 1725 and taught the 13 colonies how to make a slave. And I was wondering why Michael Fuchs, Fuchs, German, why would he leave? Because who wants to be associated with a presidential cabinet that's basically supposed to be progressive, supposed to be moving forward, but they're forcing us to remember who Emmett Till is, what happened to him, to put it in our frontal lobe, to make it relevant again, and then name the bill after the science of slavery. When Joe Biden says out of his mouth, follow the science, and he's talking about the science of Willie Lynch, which is also known, and this is some real stuff, the science of slavery. So the Willie Lynch science is the science of slavery. Willie Lynch science is let's make a slave. And we're going to talk about those different components down the road, because we cannot move forward. It's like we can't just see a trending topic and just move forward. Like you said, a lot of us say we're not ambulance chasers, but as soon as something happened, we're all on the bandwagon. So, yeah, Chris Rock got slapped by Will Smith. OK, that's water in the bridge for us, because we love having our conversations in plain sight and seeing people's viewpoint, because we're talking about righteousness versus wrong. Because anybody that says that act wasn't wrong is going straight to hell. Seriously, that was a wrong act. If that was a 2-year-old child walked up on stage and kicked somebody in the shin, it would be wrong. But I see the conspiracy theories. Was it real? Was it fake? Was it this? Was it that? But that's a situation that we could talk about down the road, because it will be fun and candid. But on a serious note, let me reset the room. On the day, March 29th, 2022, President Biden signed into law H.R. 55, which is named in Section 1, the Emmett Till Antilynching Act. Emmett Till Antilynching Act. That's what we call a double whammy. You not only made racism legitimized, you legitimized the racism and the components of racism, and then you name the bill of the person who is, I wouldn't say champion, but who is accredited for the science to control a whole group of superior people. And when I say a whole group of superior people, why do the scales have to be imbalanced or unbalanced for you to feel like you're legit? Why can't we be on the same playing field? Because without a shadow of a doubt, based on the science, based on the evidence, that if you give us the same opportunities, you will be irrelevant. This is why you have to handpick our best minds and our scholars to be a part of your operation, and then force them to flip the script and then be used as a catalyst to keep us downtrodden. So this is why, we have to start getting excited and have to start understanding that we have to have skin in the game when it comes to politics. Because when I say it's not cool to wrestle with flesh and blood, like I don't like to wrestle with flesh and blood. OK, I rather wrestle with powers and principalities, because when you deal with the powers and principalities and evildoers in high places, then you make decisions to counter their decisions. We're not making decisions to basically, Chris Rock should have jumped on Will Smith's back and kicked him down the stage and make him face plant. Yeah, that would have been funny, but it would have been actually not a good thing, because these two men do represent a brand of blackness, which we call black excellence. So we have to live by a higher standard. And this is what I'm telling you, because the crab bucket syndrome, no one gets out the bucket. It's always opposition. It's always crap. And a lot of people don't understand when you talk about dealing in the dark side realm. They say only the dark side deals in absolutes. That's a lie. The dark side deals in loopholes and bullshit. That's what the dark side. The light side deals in absolutes, just like mathematical terms. Light is light. Positivity is positive. Love equals love. But if you add negativity to it, pessimism to it, then you basically erases in anything that we're trying to do. This is why we have to raise our standard. And this is why we're doing our thing and we're trying to better America. And this is why we invented a better Black America, because blackness is something special. And we have to understand that it is, because if you look at the system of racism, which we're forced to look at in 2022, because President Joe Biden is naming bills after Emmett Till, who is one of the most notable racist atrocities in American history. And then also added in that same bill that became law, anti-lynching, which lynching derived from the name Lynch, Willie Lynch, which confirmed that let's make a slave is real. So this is why we have to deal with race. So any of you whites or Caucasians want to deal with class, there's no way we can even have a part of what you're talking about, because President Joe Biden made it all about race. There's no bills being signed to basically bridge the gap socially and economically, because socially, from a class perspective, we kept a whole bunch of people back. No, they specifically brutalated Black people. Emmett Till is one of them, hung us on trees in public lynches. And Joe Biden named a bill after the person who championed slavery. Willie Lynch championed slavery. So this is why we cannot change that energy. We have to keep that energy, that same energy that had us socially and really understanding things when the George Floyd situation. But somehow we got beat back and shut up because they took us off the streets and, put us in mandates and locked us up in our homes and told us to be quiet. And the reason that we're doing this because of the spiritual incarnation is coming, because on August 20th of the year 2022, we will be 3 years removed from the biblical prophecy. And that biblical prophecy is a curse being lifted, because Acts 7:6 says the children of Abraham will be stolen from their land, and they'll dwell in a foreign land. They will be casted as slaves, and they will be duly oppressed for exactly 400 years. People, that 400 years expired August 20th, the year 2019. Believe me, that's real fact. So the people in high places, they're somehow creating this smokescreen and these illusions and these distractions to make sure, and then made sure that they can find 85 million votes to actually destroy the incumbent who actually had a plan for America to make sure that they keep their good economic. Now, if they did all of this to be on the right side of history to sign these bills, no thanks, but no thanks. A little too late in the game. Because if you were to kill somebody, you're going to get convicted. It's people in jail for life for attempted murder. And they're basically saying in this anti-lynching bill that you get 30 years. But if you kill somebody, you deserve life. What does that have to do with anything? And yesterday, I'm here in Los Angeles, and Stevie Wonder owns a radio station called KJLH. And Stevie Wonder was on the radio station in the noon hour with Tammy Mack, who's the host. And Stevie Wonder was talking about the situation we're in and what we're going through. And the bill, HR 55 came up, and Stevie Wonder said that is not enough. That has nothing to do with anything. He said, listen, people, 1,200 years, not sure where his math is coming from, but he said 1,200 years, it was legal. And then 1,200 years later, they signed a bill which nobody is actually, it's kind of like saying if you get run over by a wagon and then put that into law and call it the wagon bill and not a vehicle, a modern vehicle, you're taking us back in history. But like he said, 1,200